Welcome to On Point on Canine Chronicle TV. I'm your host, Wayne Cavanaugh, and today we get to talk to Michael Hill. He's a rising star dog trainer and a TV personality with dogs as well. He's trained over 400 dogs from California to Dubai and back. He's appeared on NBC4, Fox 5, Good Morning America. Oh, that's a lot to do for a young guy, Michael. Well done. Welcome, Michael Hill.
Thank you so much, Wayne. It's great to be here with you.
Well, it's wonderful to see you and your lovely boy over there. He's that is his official name, Bad Boy, right?
That is. He's one of my training clients here.
Well, that's always a good thing to have. You don't have to reveal who the training client is unless you're dying to.
No, that's a privileged information right now.
I would hope so. Let's just say that Michael is a trainer to the stars, as well as being his own rising star. Start with your early life, Michael. I know that you didn't grow up in dogs. It wasn't something you were born into like some of us. You had
Not at all.
But seriously, that bond had to be there because as a very young man, you got involved.
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate that my earliest memories were about animals, specifically dogs, like from very, very young age. I had always been told, from the very beginning, oh, you like dogs, you're going to be a vet. So that was the plan. I was going to go to vet school, do the whole thing. I actually got started working in a vet clinic when I was in 5th grade, even neutered a dog in 5th grade.
Yeah, well
off the record. And I just kind of dove into things from the beginning. But at the same time, I was kind of restricted on what I could do because I was one of 6 kids in a military family. Oh, so I actually did not, I had an English setter young. And then after that, dogs kind of became too many moving pieces with everything else going on. So I actually didn't have a dog for a good while growing up, and just kind of used other people's dogs, neighbors, friends, that kind of thing. I'd have people pay me $20 to show their Yorkie to stop barking. Yes. And honestly, I just did it for fun and for dog time. And, it was just kind of seeing wherever I could get dog FaceTime. And through the vet clinic, I started working in rescue groups. I had a couple of years of volunteering at adoption events and fostering, dogs and helping with that. And then come the end of high school, I was actually watching Westminster on TV. And it was just like a light switch. And I was like, I'm going to breed and show Great Danes. So I decided at 17 that I was going to use my college savings to buy a Great Dane show dog. And, the logistics of how that was going to happen were not my concern. And I just decided it was going to happen one way or another. So I did. And I bought that first show dog from Ray Cataldi, Rojan Great Danes in Chicago, who ended up being one of the best mentors in dogs, and is still a dear friend today who I talk to almost on a daily basis. I have a Dane litter coming up, and it was his idea who I bred to with this litter. So yeah, it was one of these things where it started with a love of dogs at a young age, and then seeing Westminster on TV really was the first kind of visualization of that's something that I could do with dogs in my life. And I ended up walking away from the vet path, realizing that what I wanted to do was work with dogs and make a living with dogs, not necessarily with dog bodies. So even though, I'd always kind of been told that if you like dogs, the career that you can survive on with dogs is a veterinarian, I came to realize that there are handlers, there are breeders, there are trainers, and you can even make up your own approach to how to combine all of that and make a living for yourself and be working with dogs every day. And that's where I am now.
When your first Great Dane that you got, was it a show dog? Did you show it?
Yep. I learned to show her myself.
First show, like, here's my leash, here's my dog?
Actually, I went to my first handling class, but it was canceled. And the only other person that showed up was a man named Jimmy Lloyd, who is Angie Lloyd's dad.
Yeah.
And it was at Warrenton, Virginia. And I was away at college as well. So that was another factor, is I bought this dog while not even living with this dog. So I arranged to get all the way home to get this dog to go to a handling class. And we show up at this empty parking lot and there's no one there because I had never been before and Jimmy Lloyd didn't check emails. So we just kind of met by pure luck. And he's like, where did you get this dog from? And it turned into this thing where he actually would mentor me every week on the week, never charged me a dime, and taught me how to show a dog myself. So it was, and that's kind of just been the name of the game since the very beginning. I mean, at the same time, I was also in summers working at a vet clinic that just happened to be the closest repro vet clinic to me. But the owner of the vet clinic was Scott Dove, who bred and owned the Deerhound that Angie Lloyd showed and won Best in Show at Westminster. And so I had met Angie working there. Her dad was teaching me how to show dogs. Dr. Dove was my boss. And, Sherry Moses walked in one day with a German Shepherd named Captain Crunch, who I just thought was a great dog and loved throwing the soccer ball for, and all this just happened in a very short period of time while I had bought my own first dog. And so then when I would show up at the shows myself and here's my dog, these are the people who I was seeing at the shows and asking for tips and, really getting a lot of support and feedback from, as a freshman in college.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So many times our lives are defined by the people we meet. And some people would say you've had great luck, but it seems to me that you don't get great luck without interest. I mean, serious interest and passion. And then when you meet those people, they see that and it sticks and you get to move on and learn from other people as well and stay in the sport. So besides the folks you just mentioned, Mr. Lloyd and that crew, were there any other mentors going forward after that? I know Frank Bales has been an influence on you with Australian Shepherds.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he and Jeff Margerson and Chris Dale Margerson, they're all Bayshore, Stonehaven, and they bred this dog. They bred my Aussie. And I met Frank through Sherry early on because they had gone way back with showing Flapjack and the Border Collies, Merlin and Drifter. And so he became a really, really dear friend, someone who I also talk to every day, who's a mentor and has been involved in, as most people know, 7 different breeds, I think, that he's had top winning dogs. So just a really great animal person, and then also, I've been able to kind of branch out to other breeds that I haven't owned or bred or shown, but like, for example, enjoying PCA with Janet Lang and, meeting people like Dennis McCoy and Randy Guerin there. While at these shows, it's been just a very organic growth and progression where I've just shown up and I've always been intense. I've always been interested, and I can't fake it. I also can't turn it off. So, so it was one of these things where, again, it was a combination of luck, but then also I think being kind of real and candid with people about interest, even if it's not a breed that I particularly want to own, or for example, like with poodles, groom myself, I can still appreciate learning about that breed and kind of applying back to just dogs as a whole.
And you've asked the right questions to the right people. And that's so important. I think we're afraid to ask questions. And maybe if you grew up in the sport, you're afraid of those people because they're such, icons. But in your case, your passion just came through and you got to meet those people. Tell me about German Shepherds too. You had a connection there after Captain Crunch, and you did show some of those as well.
Yeah, so Captain Crunch was the initial kind of foray into German Shepherds. The first week that I met him, he was boarding at the clinic for a week, so I would just throw the soccer ball with him every night. And that was a dog that particularly had excellent character and excellent temperament. And so through him, I met Jim and Sherry Moses and got involved with breeding and showing German Shepherds as well. That's also kind of how I started being able to do more breeding than I kind of thought was possible for my kind of position in life, because I live, in the city and in apartments, and I don't have a kennel. I don't have kennel help to raise litters. So what I started doing, and this was with the German Shepherds, is I would have friends of mine who were just regular people and they wanted a great dog. They wanted a family dog, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would basically have us co-own a dog that would live with them full-time as their family pet. And then I would kind of manage the training and the showing and breeding decisions with the help of Sherry. And then we would raise these litters in their house. So the puppies were raised around kids. you know, and in the city with lots of socialization. And also it provided a way to bridge the gap between, you know, my regular friends who have nothing to do with dogs and this dog world. So, and who doesn't love puppies?
I do want to talk about that junction. I think it's fascinating. Well, of course, you couldn't have picked any better people. I mean, Jim and Sherry Moses, I mean, come on. You just kept hitting home runs with the people you met. It's so important.
And through them, Kent Boyle and Liz are wonderful too. You know, it's one of those things where it's like if you stick with the good people, they tend to have more good people around them.
You know, they're not going to stick around you unless you are interested, passionate, and ask the right questions. You know, it's too easy to walk up, ask one question, and write it down and walk away. They're not going to, if you don't show the interest in them, they're not going to show the interest back. And you've done a great job of that and leapfrogging through. You also, you worked a couple weekends for Angela and a couple others. And just that helped you with just the basic fundamentals, the logistics of getting a dog ready and how that all works.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you know, these people like Dennis and Randy, Jim and Sherry, they did the full-time handling career. That's how they had these top dogs, and they were on the road every weekend. And I think for me, as I've been, you know, kind of navigating what I want my life in dogs to look like, I found it very useful to spend some weekends working with some top professional handlers, both to learn practical skills and also to kind of evaluate like if that's the right life for me. And so I was fortunate to do some weekends with Michael and Michelle Scott, with Phil and Amy Booth, Angie Lloyd, where I could also show my own dog while I was, you know, on the road with them as well. So it was kind of a 2-for-1. And learn from each of them and see their similarities and their differences. But honestly, with people of that caliber, there was a lot more similarities than differences. But for me, although I do love traveling, traveling every weekend and showing dogs every weekend, I don't think is the path for me. I have a lot of respect for people who can do that, but I more prefer to have my own dogs and show them, and then occasionally show for somebody at the shows that we want to go to with the dogs that we want to show there, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's fascinating to, I mean, Michael Scott, I mean, and Michelle, these are people that know about business too. They've done a great job. Not everybody does. They know how to run a business, and they've done very well at it. Those are little things you pick up along the way. And you've put it all together in a short period of time. Well, relatively, you know, for an old man, it's, you know, 10 years. No, it's pretty well done. So then you still involved in the show part. Really, you'll still go to a show. And now this litter you have upcoming, I know you have a beautiful fawn bitch, and you bred to a brindle dog, right?
Yeah. So this fawn bitch is actually, she's a great niece of my original Dane bitch. And so she was actually bred by my great friends, Dr. Fernando Arce and Carlos Campos in Costa Rica, who I met at my first national, like almost 10 years ago. And they bred her, and I bought her as a puppy, brought her here, finished her championship. She had 9 puppies last year. And now I have bred her to a brindle dog that is in the Midwest, and he was the top. He won the stud dog class at the national, I think, 2 years ago, and he's produced really well. But he also has a beautiful pedigree, and he's, you know, it's a line breeding on all of Ray Cataldi's bloodline. So I'm very excited about that.
I saw a picture of him and a picture of her, and it looks like and the pedigree too. And of course, Ray's got great stuff back there. So I think you're in good. Will you show any of those, or keep? Well, you can't keep any.
Well, I might keep one. I might keep one with somebody or here. You know, I never say never, kind of a thing. It's become easier and easier to find opportunities for. You know, it's one of those things where yes, the more people you have involved, the more complicated things can be, but also the more people you have involved, many hands makes light work kind of a deal. So like with this puppy, for example, he was just supposed to be a companion puppy, and now his owner is willing and ready to show him and have him do that. So what I'll do is if there's something that I want to keep, I'll probably do a co-ownership and have it with me, you know, as a young puppy, get training and that kind of thing, and then have a place where, like, the mother Farah lives with my girlfriend Michelle in DC and is a couch potato and a spoiled pet all the time, except for when she's in season and getting bred and then having
Yeah.
puppies. So,
Well, I think we've all done a little of that. And the best dog owners, I've always tell people, the best dog owners are the ones that know when it's time to keep one in your place and when it's not, right?
yeah.
And by the way, I did have a national specialty winner when I was in college, and he kind of, let's say he was passed around a bit every day. I'm in class. Do you take Miles for a walk? And of course,
Yeah.
who wouldn't want to? You're going to meet people.
Right. Right.
Great
Exactly.
social lesson for those kinds of dogs too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them, right? So
yes,
then,
I don't want to be collecting dogs.
you definitely don't want to do that, especially Great Danes and German Shepherds. And
right.
I live with a 200-pound Irish Wolfhound, so
you know how it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, the training part has really become a core for you. And you went to George Mason, and you have your BS in psychology. Has that human element of psychology played into your training methods, which I know are very successful?
Hugely. I mean, more so than anything. And I think that's the approach for my business, is that it's really people focused. I'm of the mentality, after kind of, yes, I'm young, but I've seen enough dogs to know that most good dogs are adaptable. And that's why dogs fit so well into our lives, that if we can just help humans understand the basics of, having some just perspective of what's important and what's not, they're kind of distilling down to bare bones, prioritizing what we need to focus on first, and then next steps from there, that dogs carry through the rest because they are that adaptive. So, the human psychology, just basic principles of learning how to communicate with owners and motivate owners, as well as motivating dogs, and also just bringing in a more scientific, logical approach to dog training, because that's one of the things that I've realized is that something that for me was just a passion project, as a kid and growing up and just doing it kind of ad hoc, here and there, is that there's so much misinformation about dog behavior and dog communication. And I've seen it even in the dog show world with professionals, who will say, well, the dog's doing this or but where is the factual kind of backing for that, right? They're not wolves. They're not, trying to be, dominating and taking over, right. There's basic principles of learning at play here, where certain things are being reinforced, and so they're going to happen more so, and certain things we can reduce the frequency of by not reinforcing them. So that kind of practical, logical background, I think, has been very helpful for me in my business, but also just for training success, to help clarify for things so that people aren't so overwhelmed.
Right. Well, there's plenty of people out there that call themselves dog trainers, and some are very successful. I love your scientific-based approach, and it just makes common sense. It's just common sense too, right? But
right.
All those people out there, they're not getting the kind of business you are. How did you start that business? How did you feel confident enough to say, this is what I'm going to, I have lots of competition, but this is what I'm going to do?
So it was kind of funny. I like I said, I'd always planned on becoming a vet. I had done the Bachelor of Science in Psychology with all my pre-vet requisites, pre-vet prerequisites. So I had come to graduate, and I realized, actually being a veterinarian was not what I wanted to do. And having paid for college myself, I wasn't ready to take on another 4 years of school loans if I didn't want to do it. And so I just kind of put things on hold, and I took a year hiatus where I was living in DC, and I was working and doing carpentry projects and working in restaurants, things that I just didn't know how to do, because I liked the feeling of being uncomfortable. And at the same time, I found this kind of appreciation for being an entrepreneur and being my own boss, and was learning from people who were entrepreneurs and who were running small businesses. And so seeing that kind of appreciation inside me, I then thought, well, okay, let me apply this to things that I know. So the thing that I had spent the most time on in my life up to this point has been dogs. I started looking into the field and doing research, and realized that the dog training industry is completely unregulated. There's no school for dog training. There's no license for dog training. There's no, there are certifications, but they are businesses in and of themselves. And I know some owners of those businesses, and it's great, for them to try to regulate, into the extent that they can, but there are definite limitations to that. And there's a lot of people who had a rescue dog that they worked with, and they want to become a dog trainer. So, which is fine, but that does have limitations in the scope of somebody's ability sometimes. So
Right.
what
Lots of acronyms after people's names, some of them
exactly
are valid and some of them not as much, really. So how did you start the business part of it, though? You had some base clients and then just word of mouth from there?
From the very beginning, I made a website, I made business cards, and I walked around DC, and my very first client, I met her in the pouring rain when her Afghan hound slid out of its collar, and I was there to catch it. Mentioned I was a dog trainer, and that client, I kept up with her through, I think, 3 of her dogs. She lived in Georgetown and owned the ballet school there, and we worked together for, I think, about almost 5 years before I moved here. So, and then from her, it was all word of mouth and referral from the very beginning. And it was honestly, too, again, a lot of just good fortune with who the initial clients were and who referred me to, I remember my third client giving me, my third client was referred by my second client, his assistant, and he gave me the address, and I showed up, and it was the Embassy of New Zealand. So, it was just one of these things where I just kind of jumped into it from the beginning. But I think the same thing goes for clientele as it does for people in the dog world, that at the basis, everybody is a human and everybody is no different regardless of their background or their, position. And for me, it's been always pretty easy to navigate that. So I've kind of just kept that approach and that, that focus on that kind of clientele from the very beginning, and that professionalism, I think, has kind of just naturally grown from there. And so, as things have progressed, I've had partnerships with, different businesses, vet clinics that would have, me on call as a referral for their clients, boarding clinics that I would partner with and run programs out of, things like that. So it's been a lot of networking, and that's kind of the name of the game, I think, with any small business, is networking.
Yeah. So you started off show dogs. You've got these great things. You've got these German Shepherds. You've got all these dogs, all these great mentors. You put all that together. You add the training segment to your business, and you've got this. Really, you have started your own blend of this whole dog world, and I'm fascinated by that and how that plays in. So yeah. I had a situation after many years, my entire life. I was at the point where I wasn't showing dogs because a lot of things. Plus, but I had 2 dogs that really were our house pets, and we'd sold our house. We sold the kennel. We moved to a smaller place, and all of a sudden, my wife got this beagle puppy, and she was out of control. I've never met one I couldn't fix, but I couldn't fix this one. So yeah. Cheryl called a local dog trainer, and we've become fast friends and dear friends. And they've put us into this group of pet owners. Now, let me tell you, to me, that is a bridge that is really long and really far. Right? I know how to train a dog, darn it, to go down and back in a circle and stop. Right? I can do all that. Right. I'm a dog trainer. In fact, I've got awards for such things, perhaps, somewhere along the way. That's hanging around. Well, I go to my first obedience class with my wolfhound puppy, and he's great. He's a star. But one of the trainers said, okay, now we're going to grab the leash, we're going to walk. And of course, I'm snapping up on my shelf. And she's like, no, we're going to need to learn how to do this. And it was humbling. I mean, humbling. In fact, 2 people in the class happened to know who I was. Even more humbling, right? So it was one of those things that really made me start to want to know more about that. And you've done that, and you've gotten into that pet world. And I think as show people, and certainly that's my primary focus for all my life, I'm learning more and more about this world. And what I know is learning about that pet world, my companion world, shows me there's a great gap between the purebred show dog world and the rest of the dog world. And it's one that concerns me because they can benefit from each other. And I know that you feel the same way about, we've talked about this briefly, about misconceptions with pet ownership. And we use this phrase pet as a pejorative in the dog show world, where people celebrate it on the other side of the world. And by the way, without all those pet owners, we don't have any place to sell puppies. And we don't have any interest in people buying our puppies. So talk a little bit about those misconceptions and how you think we can bridge that gap better.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this topic is one of the things I'm actually most passionate about. Like I said, I realized very early on that although I do love the dog show, I love I love a beautiful, well-bred dog. I also like a balanced life. I also like friends that have no interest in dogs. I like being able to live in the city and all that. And with that comes, these two different worlds that for most people are kind of separate, or like you said, with a very long gap in between. With a lot of misconceptions from both, right? Like pet is seen as a phrase for a dog that's not good enough, and for the show world sometimes, and then for many of the companion owners, breeders are bad, or breeders, are problematic, and we should rescue a dog. So, what I've done since very early on is kind of tried to bridge the gap for that. And that's looked like being a matchmaker for people when people are looking for a dog, whether that's a puppy from somebody who I know through the dog world, or a retired show dog, or retired breeding dog. Like I said, even my own dogs. I would much rather have a dog of my own be a spoiled family companion and never touch a show ring than live life in a crate and, be on the road the whole time and never have quality of life, personally.
Yeah, there's a lot of breeders that more and more are saying, I don't even sell them a show. I sell them as pets. If they turn out, they can show them or I'll help them. But that expectations aren't just buying something that you can win ribbons with. You want to also be vested in either the breeding process, the showing process, the health process, and the pet process. I take my dog. I almost feel embarrassed to say this. Our dogs go to doggy daycare.
Well, I think it's so great you're talking about that.
This is the reveal, right?
Yes.
Twice a week for 4 hours. And when my dog show friends come over, and I can turn my wolfhound loose and our beagle loose with any breed, and we live in sort of a neighborhood now. We have a standard poodle that I helped get for a person who couldn't get one. They all want, it was driving. She was ready to switch over to the dark side, and we got her a great one from a good breeder. And there's a golden doodle here, and 2 Brittany's now. We can turn them loose and play. And my dog show off lead. My dog show friends were, oh, you can't. They're going to get in a fight. No. Killian hangs out with a couple pit bulls, lots of golden doodles. The Great Dane is a wonderful Great Dane friend, and they play. We don't make a big deal of it. We're not jacked up on the leash going, no, he's going to fight. We turn them loose and let them be dogs. And it thrills me when I see videos. This past year, Standard Poodle, wonderful dog, won the Garden. There are videos of it swimming in a murky pond just a couple days later. That warms my heart. People finding that balance. And when you're talking, you do find the friction, right? If you say to someone you meet that's a rescue people that you're training for, and you mention the dog show world, how do you handle those conversations?
I really try to focus on the good as much as possible. I can have personal kind of things that that I would want people to improve upon in the show world, but I will focus on that conversation with people in the show world and not with the people outside the show world. Right. So I try to also direct those people to the people that are going to be most open-minded to a modern dog companion lifestyle, right? There are breeders who have told me, oh, I won't sell my breed to somebody who lives in the city. They don't have a fenced-in backyard. Right. For me, I've only ever lived in studio apartments, but my dogs are off leash playing with other dogs like you're talking about every day. Right. And yes, there's risk involved with everything, but you find much better odds when you do have a group of dogs that are doing that regularly and are used to it, right? As opposed to a show dog that, like you said, that we can't even let them greet another dog because it might turn into a fight. Right. So I think it's one of those things where I do try to emphasize that with responsible, purposeful breeding, you get great temperament. And so I think the underlying temperament is the thing that I want to focus on, that people are breeding for that, because the inability maybe to be off leash and play in doggy daycare isn't actually on the dog's temperament. It's just that the dog has never been socialized to do that in the life that they've been raised. But take a puppy from that breeding and put it with one of my clients and guide it correctly from the beginning, and they'll do fabulously.
Well, I can tell you, it was it was a moment for me. I was working on a book with Ted Karasotti. He's a great, great author. Wrote Merle's Door and Pucka's Promise. If anyone hasn't read Merle's Door and you're in dogs, you need to. And he came to visit, and Killian was about 6 months old. And he said, let's go to the big lake, Lake Michigan, and turn our dog. So we called some friends. We had intact German short hairs. We had a corgi. It was a real eclectic assemblage. We'd take him to the beach, and that was the first time I turned a dog loose with a bunch of other dogs on a beach, no fence. And I was terrified. And I turned him loose, and Killian, who'd never seen the water, took off right through the waves, small waves, Lake Michigan, but waves, following the Labrador, who was having so much fun, always came when I called him. And I was choked up. I sat there and thought, man, I've been preventing some of my dogs. Our dogs get out. But to have more exposure to that. We moved here off the farm. And on the farm, that's where wolfhound sellers would say, wow, you've got the perfect place. I had miles of trails. We had 12 acres. Wooded. It was gorgeous for dogs to run around. But when he played with, and a lot of times, by the way, you let a wolfhound out to run around, and they lay down, right? So after their little 2-minute poopy, then so when we moved here, all of a sudden I've got neighbors, and I'm walking my dog, and by simply walking my dog around through town, I take him up to our little village. I realized how the first few months was dicey. He hadn't seen strange dogs coming up to him on a leash. Never happened. And that's when the doggy daycare kicked in. And that's when I started to really work with this stuff. But you do meet people along the way. And I'll meet people who are always interested that he's wolfhound. I haven't really met one or two that gave me kind of the snub because, they had a rescue dog, but they still appreciated my dog, right? And when they ask a silly question, I try to give them, I don't go, those people, they thought it was a Bernedoodle, and I got so mad. I don't think that. I see it as an opportunity to teach. And I'm guessing that happens to you as well.
Every day. Every day. And I think it's one of those things where I also try to, like you said, it's very important in how you are delivering, because you might be so convicted as a dog person with decades of experience in your breed that you know more than anybody could about whatever your breed is. But that doesn't matter if your approach and your affect turns the person away before you even can share anything with them. So what I do in my training business or when recommending dogs and giving advice is I say, this is what I would do if it were me and why. I don't ever tell anyone what to do.
Yes.
And so if that's, for example, why I would pick a breed for their household, why I would avoid a breed that they had in mind, that kind of a thing, it's never telling them don't get that breed, because humans have a natural pushback, right? So I'm the same way. Dogs are the same way. Right. If you say you better do it or else, there's a natural response to want to do it, just to kind of maintain your independence there. Right. So you catch more flies with honey, as they say. Yeah. And I think that's the benefit of being in an environment like you see when you are out walking a breed like an Irish Wolfhound around, is that you do engage people. I can't walk anywhere without people stopping and wanting to see this puppy and pet him. Or when I'm walking around with one of my Great Danes, everybody wants to, and my Great Danes, they've been at every bar and restaurant in DC, and I'll just tie her to a post and leave her for hours while I'm socializing. And who knows how many people will pet on her and do all that. And then, that's also honestly how I've sold a lot of puppies. It's because people meet the dog in real life and they see a breed that they wouldn't have seen before.
I feel a responsibility to be an ambassador for Irish Wolfhounds. I really do. And I mean to tell them, hey, by the way, we always wanted one. Well, do you have a twin bed hanging around for a dog mattress? I have a car dedicated. I have back seats out of my car, just like in my SUV. And it's a great opportunity. And your matchmaking business, it fascinates me. I think we need a lot more of this. It seems to me that if I was a veterinarian, by the way, I failed chemistry real quick, or I would have been. I think I'm not the only one. But we all think we're going to be a vet. If
Right.
veterinarians would consider opening up, say, once a month and having an hour or two open without people, for people who don't have dogs, to go in and say, and they may not be the best source, or they may, but at least someone who's publicly available and recognized to tell people, try this breed, not that breed. Or even if you're rescuing a dog or getting one from a shelter, you might want to bring a trainer along to help you pick one out that suits your lifestyle. And
Exactly.
we'll have a lot fewer dogs going back to shelters if that was the case. So it's amazing to me that you're able to do this. And the nice part is, like the woman who wanted a standard poodle across from me, I happen to know breeders. If she called them, she might not have got a poodle. And I almost feel, I hate when people call me and say, can you get me a Labrador or whatever? Because I feel terribly responsible.
Yeah.
And I also know that it's going to be a long, hard road before I can get them one, in which time they're going to go buy a golden doodle, because they are accessible and they're available. And like them or not, they're cute.
Yeah.
And I can't hate them for that. You know, they always, oh, you're going to hate me. I did the horrible thing. I went and bought it. So not only do I not hate you, do you like your dog?
Yeah. Are you taking good care of your dog, and do you love it? That's all I care about.
What can we do to help you get it trained to get a good vet to get what you might need? In Border Collies, many years ago, I was doing the Border Collie World Championships in the Dakotas with wonderful Andrea Joyce. She's terrific. And I was working for the AKC, and I went out there on behalf of Animal Planet. Well, they knew that I was from the AKC, and I've never been ostracized and felt so out in my life, ever.
Yeah.
You're going to ruin my breed. And I tried to explain to them that no one with a show dog is going to come over, jump the fence, and inseminate all of your working dogs and ruin your breed, nor are you going to willingly want to breed to one of ours, nor are we going to want to breed you. So it's not going to, yes, I completely understand. In fact, I appreciate the passion that they want it to be closed and theirs.
Sure.
But it's going to happen. It's supply and demand, what people want. You either complain
and like you
about
said,
it.
accessibility too.
Right. Or we can complain, or we can help them. Maybe we can get that golden doodle into performance events at an AKC event when they might see some Labradors they prefer, or a golden retriever they prefer. So we can also bridge that gap that way. But yeah, it's a topic that we could probably do about 5 hours on, Michael. I'm sure.
Right.
Sure
Absolutely.
So you've wrapped this world up. You've got your dog shows you've handled for yourself mostly, but for others as well. You've got all this great knowledge of bringing these dogs together. You're doing the TV personality thing, which I don't want to discount, because you have a good set of tools and you have a great personality to help do some of these things to help educate dog people. So I'm thrilled that you're doing that. And the training, which is your baseline business, which you're doing extremely well with. And also the matchmaker thing, which I think is just wonderful. So hopefully for Canine Chronicle TV, you can help bringing these things together and help educating even our people in the sport about how those things come together. By the way, I thought your interview with Jamie Hubbard and Doug Johnson, Doug's one of my favorite people in the dogs, a brilliant breeder, by the way, master breeder, as is Jamie, with Welsh Springers. I thought you did a great job with that and introducing us to a breed that most of us don't get the education, don't get enough education on, because they're fairly rare, right?
Right.
So we hope to see you doing more of that along the way.
Absolutely.
Thrilled you're here at Canine Chronicle TV. Anything else you wanted to add, Michael? And if you want to do a shameless plug with your website, I'm fine with that.
I will. My website is www.districtcanine.com. And my Instagram is Michael Hill.
Yeah.
Yep. Instagram is another thing that I use as well. This is one little thing I would talk about. That point exactly. When I've had some great dog people say they're too old for social media, but that's how accessibility happens for dogs, right? Yes. Everybody looking for a dog goes to Instagram, goes to those things to find dogs. And so they don't know good dogs exist if they don't see them, right? And so that's one of the things I think, like Canine Chronicles putting these videos on Instagram now too. It's not as complicated as you guys might think it is to use. Right. It's very simple.
Well,
just
actually,
give it a try.
I did create an account for Killian the Irish Wolfhound, and he's doing quite well.
There we go.
Maybe I'll get there. Maybe I'll get there.
The
Well,
dog
Michael,
accounts are a big thing.
yeah, absolutely. It has been an absolute pleasure. We have so many things else we could cover down the road, but it's been fabulous. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too.
Me too.
The best of luck in your travels. I know some of them have been extraordinary, and best of luck with Boy, who I think is just one of those special puppies. You'll have fun with them.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
Take care, Michael. Good to see you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Thank you. And that's it for On Point this week. Thank you, Michael Hill, and thank you, Canine Chronicle, for another opportunity to challenge in our world.